Not much in my past worth mentioning. An average man with average desires, a loving wife, a good job, children. My lovely wife, Helen, had similar interests. At least I thought so. My story is about how I found out that my wife and I didn't have as many interests in common as I thought. It started one dark and stormy night. No. It didn't. It's just the way I've always wanted to start a story. It started one night when I came home from work. My wife, Helen, was sitting on the couch in the living room watching TV. She turned it off when I walked in. I sniffed around and didn't smell any food. "What's the matter? Do you want to go out tonight? Did you ask Kelsey? Kelsey's at your mom's right now. I wanted to talk to you without interrupting." There was a sexy note in her voice, and I thought I was about to get lucky. Helen continued. "I know I shouldn't talk about role-playing, but I just want you to know how much I enjoy it. I want us to take what we do on Wednesdays into our bedroom on a regular basis. What do you say, cowboy?" I didn't know what to say except what's with the role-playing. "Oh, I know you want to pretend you're keeping it a secret to heighten the excitement, but you've spoiled me. I want more than once a week for our special lovemaking. I'm overcome with a feeling of intense fear. Helen, I don't know anything about Wednesday night role-playing. Please explain to me what you're talking about." Helen was starting to look shocked too. "You know, Wednesdays at the Marcus Inn and Suites, doesn't that mean anything to you?" I shook my head negatively. "Oh my God, you emailed me about 6 weeks ago that you'd found a way to revitalize our sex life. I should go to room 301 at the Marquis Hotel. I had to undress, put on the mask lying on the night table and lie naked on the bed. I didn't move even when you came in and tied me to the bed. After you made love to me, you would untie me and leave. I wasn't supposed to take off my mask until you left. We were supposed to pretend we were having an affair and keep secrets from each other. It was supposed to make sex so much more enjoyable for us. You said we couldn't talk about it for a week. I couldn't believe how wonderful it was. We were having sex differently than we ever had before. Okay. Please tell me it was you." Tears came to her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Helen. I've never been to the Marquis with you or anyone else. Are you telling me that I've had sex with someone other than my husband 6 times? She ran to the bathroom and threw up. After cleaning herself up, she went back into the living room where I sat in complete shock. "Cal, you have to forgive me. Honestly, I thought it was you. I was so happy. Now I feel like an idiot. Someone tricked me. Hell, that's why he never talked to me in the room. He wanted me to keep thinking it was you. Oh, Cal, please tell me you forgive me. I don't know what to say. It just seems so strange. How could someone do this to us and why? How could you be with him 6 times and not realize it wasn't me? I thought it was you. You did things differently, but that was part of the role play. Doing something different, sexier, more dodgy than before. I think he's just hotter than you. Well, maybe you need to find out who this guy is, who is so much better in bed than me so you can be his wife." I was getting angry. "You don't have to treat me like that. I wanna find this guy. I wanna cut his balls off for raping me. Do you realize he basically raped me?" I've calmed down. "I'm sorry, Helen. I didn't see it from your point of view enough. Let's try to look at it logically if we can. Who would want to do something like this for us? It would have to be someone who really hates me, you, or both of us, or it could be someone who was secretly in love with you and figured out a way to have sex without convincing you to cheat on your husband." Helen's whole body trembled. I get goosebumps at the thought that there might be someone out there somewhere who thinks about having sex with me every night. "You mean besides me?" Of course. My attempt to lighten the mood turned into a major disaster. "Asshole, you weren't raped. I'm sorry." "Okay. Where did the letter come from? Too bad I don't save emails." Whoever sent them told me to delete the messages. They were emailed from your office. So it must be someone who has access to my computer. I usually leave it on when I leave my desk for only a short time. Trouble is it gives us dozens of opportunities. Does he keep emailing you? Yes, he usually confirms our meeting before each time, hinting at what I can expect. He said he wanted the anticipation to make me melt. I had to delete that email and not respond. Now I understand why. Really? Are you getting excited? Yeah, but remember, I thought I was gonna have sex with you. Damn it, California. In my mind, I wasn't enjoying sex with another man. I was enjoying sex with you. Did he email you about the upcoming meeting on Wednesday? No. Not yet. I'll email him. I guess you don't have to email him. He gave me a phone number to leave a message if I ever had to cancel. I had to leave a message on it once. Okay. Don't do anything for now. Let me know when he texts again. There was no sex at the Turner house that night or the next. I didn't dare dip my wick where someone else had just been. Helen said she was afraid she would start imagining sex she had with another guy, which would make her feel like she was cheating on me, thus ruining the moment. We both agreed that we needed to get tested for STDs. On Monday, Helen received an email from a mystery lover. She showed me the text when I got home from work. He confirmed that this Wednesday was good for him. He was going to convince her to finally give him her ass. Helen confided in me that she considered the possibility of anal sex as part of a new role-playing activity. Until recently, she had considered anal sex to be a step too far. I told her to call him and leave a message that he could have what he wanted. I wanted to make sure he would show up. Tuesday afternoon, I went to the Marquis and talked to the desk clerk. I asked if he would be on duty the next day. He confirmed that he would. I asked him what it would take to enter the room my wife was coming to tomorrow. He was not surprised, as it was obvious to him that the woman and man who used the same room each week were not married. He replied $200. Wednesday came and we were ready to catch the man. Helen entered the room and did the usual. A few minutes later, I saw a man enter the room. It was Richie Hammond, the psycho from our office. He molested every woman in the office, married or not. Of course, he was married and had 2 children. Betraying his family apparently wasn't considered an obstacle to him. He looked at the picture of my wife on my desk and mentioned several times how lucky I was to have such a sexy wife. I always wanted to spray Lysol after every time he appeared in my office. I went to the desk clerk to get a copy of my room key. He wouldn't let me take it. Man, I'm afraid I'm gonna lose my job. The boss pounced on all the porters not to let anyone in except the one who was paying. Afternoon pleasures is a big part of our business. I'm sorry, man. I was out of my mind. I thought about what might be going on in the room. Helen was expected to be on her usual behavior, and I would barge in before anything could happen. I became frantic. If you don't give me the key, I'll kick down the door and call the police. Do you think your boss wants to deal with that? I had the key, but it was a few minutes after I was supposed to enter the room. When I walked in, Richie was standing behind me and had my wife. I grabbed him by the hair and pulled him away. Helen seemed disappointed until I untied her and removed the mask. Then she started crying. I told her to get dressed. Richie sat down in one of the chairs. Surprisingly, he looked completely relaxed. Well, at least I got to pat her beautiful ass before you did. I approached him with fire in my eyes. He just pointed to the corner. There was a camera mounted on a tripod. Cal, you don't wanna hurt me. I have videotapes of all the sessions your wife and I have had. Do you really want me to publish them? I think I can get a pretty penny for them from some porn sites. Sure. I can send them to friends and family for free, or we could just leave it at that. I take it once a week. You take it every other day. You son of a bitch. Give me the video, and you'll never see my wife again. Or what? Or I'll be can't think of anything that doesn't humiliate you or brand your wife a whore, can you? I'll kill you. Richie was already laughing. You'd leave your wife and daughter without a husband and father without a livelihood? Yes, of course. Well, I'm a little tired of her now that I got her ass. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm never gonna make contact with her again. Of course, if she wants to call me, then that's another matter. A wide smile appeared on his face. Helen got dressed, and we left. On the way home, she was silent. She ran into the house, went upstairs, and took a long shower. I waited downstairs. Once downstairs, she suggested we talk after dinner. Now it was time to pick up Kelsey. Dinner was quiet, except for Kelsey's story about the day before. She went to bed at 8 o'clock. We walked over to the kitchen table around 8:30 to make sure our daughter was asleep. "What are we going to do now?" Helen asked. "I'm not quite sure. If there was some way to get video, it would solve a lot of our problems. At the moment, I can't see any way other than burglary. But who can we get to do that? If we go to the police, he'll just say you agreed to it. He has videos that will show that you enjoyed it. Even if he's arrested, the videos will be made public. We're screwed. Do you have any ideas?" "No. I think we're out of line. I guess we could try to put it all in the rearview mirror and go on with our lives. Are you okay? No revenge? I'm afraid anything we do will only make things worse. Let's let it go. If we never talk about it again, it will eventually proceed." She left and went to bed. As usual, lately, I didn't join her. It had been 2 months now. Helen pleasant and did all her usual household and childcare duties. We usually didn't talk about anything in the house, except for things related to Kelsey, appointments, or phone messages. Our sex life was self-maintained. At the office, I tried to avoid Richie. Whenever he cast a glance at me, he had the smirk of a man who'd given me horns. Just another twist of the knife in my back. God, I wanted to wipe that smirk off with my fist. I never stopped thinking about how to get back at him. And I never gave up on my goal. In the midst of one of my revenge dreams, I got a phone call. It was the desk clerk at the Marquee. "What do you want?" "Hey, kid. Don't be mad at me. I got some information that might be useful to you. You interested?" "I have no idea. What could there be that would interest me right now?" "What about the fact that your wife and that rich guy are up to their old tricks?" I tried to sound nonchalant even though I was seething inside. "I find that hard to believe. She hates him. And why would he go back to the Marcus if he was caught there?" "I'm not at Marcus anymore. I work at the Red Roof on Kingston Road now." When I saw them, I asked the porter I was replacing about them. He said they had been coming regularly for about a month now. Every Wednesday at the same time. If proof is needed, I can get it for, say, $500. Screw you both. You and my wife. I hung up the phone. I wanted to cry, but I was too angry. Richie said he would continue if my wife called him. I remembered her comments about how much he enjoyed having sex with him. We'd never gone so long without sex before. And Helen didn't seem to feel left out, probably because it wasn't happening. The only thing I could do was leave. I grabbed the things I usually took with me on a 3-day business trip. I headed to the nearest motel, which wasn't the Marquee or the Red Roof, and it had a bar. I checked into the Holiday Inn Express and headed to the bar. I didn't drink much, so I asked the bartender for something to offer. He treated me to a cocktail from Long Island. At first, it seemed too weak, but by the second round, my opinion had changed. There was a hell of a late rumble. I was well on my way to drowning in my sorrows when I got a pat on the shoulder. "Can I join you, Cal? I need to cry into my beer too." I saw a tall woman with long, wavy, cold, black hair. She was gorgeous. I said, "Excuse me, do I know you?" "Joan, Richie's wife, at least for now. We met at last year's Christmas party." I looked again. How could I have forgotten such a beautiful woman? Had I really just said that out loud? Joan laughed. "Thank you. I think you meant it as a compliment. How did you? Why are you always this eloquent?" "Let me explain. Today, I found out about Richie's latest escapade with your wife. I paid the desk clerk who called me $500 for proof. I'm done. He's promised several times to stop being promiscuous, but I don't think that's possible. As for meeting you, it was just a coincidence. I wanted to get out of the house and clear my head. My mother has 2 of my children. When I saw you and remembered you from the Christmas party, the look on your face seemed to match what I was feeling, so I walked over. If you'd rather be alone, no. No. Please join me. I'm just so surprised. I think we probably have a lot in common. What do you drink? What do you have? A cocktail from Long Island. God damn it. I love it. I lost my virginity to him. Damn it, order me a double. We spent a few hours talking and drinking. She was easy to talk to and had a great body sense of humor. I was very attracted to that. Finally, she said, "Well, it's time for us to get revenge or go to bed ourselves. Which do you prefer? As much as I would like to make love to you, I don't think I can do it well enough to make it worthy of a special woman like you. This is the most pleasant disappointment I've ever experienced. Trust me." It wasn't meant to be an insult, and I definitely hate to miss a chance like this. If we were ever to make love, I would want to be at my best. Even then, I'd worry about whether I was good enough for you. Damn it, I haven't even taken out the trash yet. And I feel like I'm falling in love again. I should have known better than to drink doubles. What if we had breakfast together tomorrow? I could call you, or if you're up, I have a suggestion. Joan objected. What if we sleep together so we know when the other one wakes up? You mean sleep together or sleep together? Only sleeping together. I could be talked into exchanging a little affection. I really don't want to sleep alone tonight. Neither do I. Your room or mine. I have a suite. I use his credit card. He owes me. I brought some of my things to her room. After finishing our nightly bathroom duties, we got into bed. Despite the fact that we were both naked, cuddling, and kissing lightly, we fell asleep after only a few minutes. She woke up first and poked me under the ribs. Wake up. Over breakfast at the neighboring Waffle House, we got serious. Talked about our marriages. We both wanted to get rid of our spouses, and we both wanted revenge. The problem seemed to be how we could divorce them without losing as much or more than they did. I really don't want to go back to that house. I'd be happy to just go somewhere with the kids and forget about it. How can you afford it? Won't he come after the kids or come after you? My family has money. When I called them last night, they said they would put $100,000 into my personal account to allow me and the kids to start divorce proceedings elsewhere. Honestly, I would rather just walk away and let him worry about the divorce. Aren't your kids in school? Aren't they going to miss their dad? No. I homeschool them, and he only agreed to have kids because it was a condition of marrying me. I had my tubes tied after the second one. I doubt they will miss him much. I'm pretty sure he won't. He doesn't spend much time with them and always wins, and they ask him to babysit while I run off somewhere. I've known for quite some time. He probably only married me for my money. I don't care. I have 2 wonderful girls from our marriage. My parents have been slow to give me and my brother money, but they have helped us with the deposit on our house and things like that. They're not particularly fond of Richie. I haven't thought about just leaving. Like you, I don't particularly want to go back to my house. Although both our names are on the mortgage, Helen and Kelsey were never particularly close. Kelsey was an oops baby. I think Helen didn't want to put her career on hold for a few years. Kelsey has always been a daddy's girl, and I think Helen loves her, but I don't think she will take extraordinary action to win her back. She knows I'll take good care of her. You know, the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of just leaving. Joan asked me if it seems like the best option for both of us is to just leave our spouses and not mess around with divorce. The question is, do we do it together? She looked into my eyes, and maybe I was wishful thinking, but I thought I saw love in her eyes. We've been together 24 hours. Not exactly love at first sight, but pretty damn close. It doesn't make sense, but, yes, I would go with you if I could take my daughter with me. I can't believe I'm saying this. I've never done anything so impulsive and so important at the same time. I just have one question. Where are we going to go? Will we tell anyone where we're going? Those are the first 2 questions, but we have to ask each other every question we can think of. Here's my tentative plan. I have an Aunt Barbara who has a big cabin on Lake Champlain that she can no longer live in because of her problems. If it were available, it would be perfect. An isolated cabin with plenty of room for the kids and for us. The furnishings are well worthy of a photo from National Geographic magazine. It turned out that the cabin was vacant. I spent the next few days at the hotel. I ignored messages from Helen after I realized she had guessed that I knew about her returning for States with Richie on Wednesdays. I left one message. I need to go away for a while. I went to work and quit. My boss was upset but also understood the reason. He asked if firing Richie would cause any problems in my plans for Helen. My case was not the first. I said fire him. I asked him to wait until I was ready to leave. I wished I had a picture of Richie's face when he was told. But it was too much. I went into our bank and withdrew almost all the money from our joint assets. I used most of the money to pay off the rest of the mortgage. Despite her betrayal, I couldn't bring myself to take all of our money and assets. We both contributed to the household expenses. Having the house would give Helen roughly the same financial results as a 50-50 divorce. If she needed money, she could always sell the house. I gave up my interest in the house to make it easier for her. I then canceled the automatic payment of utilities and insurance. Health insurance will stop with me leaving my job. I changed the life insurance beneficiary to Kelsey. At night, Joan and I talked about what we needed to do to hide effectively, how to least harm our children, and what kind of future we could have together. We continued to avoid sex. There was enough emotion as it was. We didn't need our decision to leave our spouses to be based on sex between us. I don't know which of us was more disappointed. By the third day, we concluded that our escape plan was feasible. The next day, while Helen was at work, I went over to the house and picked up what I thought Kelsey and I needed most. I wondered if I should leave a note. All I could come up with was I hope the sex with him was worth it. My last stop for the day was Kelsey's school. I told the school that Kelsey had an appointment and apologized for not letting them know sooner. I told Kelsey that we were going on vacation. Kelsey asked if Mom was going. I said not on this trip. I was surprised by her calm response. Joan picked up the kids from Mom's house when they got home from school. By 5 o'clock, we were on our way. Aunt Barb invited us to stay at the lake house. She had just finished renovating it and had qualms about selling it. Lucky for us. We took 2 cars. Kelsey rode with me at first, but after a few stops where the 3 girls got to know each other, they took turns all riding with me or all riding with Joan. By the time we got to the log cabin, Joan and I had lost the master bedroom. The girls wouldn't agree to share the newly minted trio. Fortunately, one of the guest bedrooms was next to the second bathroom and was quite accommodating for Joan and me. One of Joan's daughters asked why Joan and I were sharing a bedroom when there was no one in one of the bedrooms. Joan told her that the bedroom we were in was an adult bedroom. Her oldest daughter replied that adults usually have their own room. Kelsey agreed. Both could see that their parents hadn't spent many nights together over the past few months. Once the excitement of the day passed, the kids headed to bed. All 3 in the same bed. Good thing it was queen-sized. Joan and I each had a glass of wine. Barbara had made us a small wine cabinet for the housewarming party. A sly smile appeared on Joan's face. So now that we're separated from our spouses, are you ready to prove how good you are in bed? Oh, hell. She remembered what I'd said that night at the Holiday Inn Express. I'm afraid I overestimated your expectations of my skills in the bedroom. My ex-wife seemed disappointed in that regard. If she fell in love with my worthless ex-husband, I don't give a damn about her judgment in the sexual arena or anywhere else. Besides, I plan to influence the quality of your performance as much as possible. I hope you don't mind a woman on top. My erection quickly responded in the affirmative to her statement. We headed for the adult bedroom and made love. I was pleasantly surprised at how different it was to love Joan than with Helen. It was a nice difference. She smelled different. And I felt different. Everything tasted different. I really thought she might be having a seizure until she said, "Can you do that again?" Surprisingly, I could. 4 times. I got up 4 times that night, a new record for me. That's it. Joan remarked before we finally fell asleep. I guess that answers the question of sexual compatibility. We snuggled up to each other. The next morning, we enjoyed shopping to stock up on food for us and the kids. I enjoyed grilling for as long as the weather allowed. We didn't need any money as Joan was still getting most of her money from her parents, plus what little I had left after paying the mortgage. No one but Aunt Barb knew where we were. Once she heard our stories, she had no problem wanting to keep our secret even from Joan's parents. Time passed, and Joan became the home teacher for all 3 children. I got a job as a handyman. Admittedly, I was learning as I went along. The girls' questions about my wife and her husband, or if they wanted to see them, became less and less frequent each month. Soon, all the girls were calling us mommy and daddy. Living outdoors allowed them to unleash their inner souls. Our closest neighbor, Greta, raised her family in this environment and was happy to give us advice. We needed it. She started out as a friend but gradually became a grandmother to our children. We asked her not to ask the children about their parents as we were both going through a nasty divorce. She agreed from time to time. Joan and I talked about whether to make contact with our former lives. We were afraid that any contact might lead someone to us. Besides Helen and Richie, we worried that the police might accuse us of kidnapping and/or fraud to avoid a legal divorce and distribution of funds. We decided to use the internet as a safer way to communicate. Greta agreed to install the internet in her home if we would teach her how to use it. She wanted to write to her grandchildren. With our kids, she missed hers even more than before. We debated whether to tell Greta our true story. So far, we hadn't done so. Things were going so well that we were afraid to rock the boat. It took Greta a month to install satellite TV with Wi-Fi. We showed her how to use email and Skype, seeing her grandchildren live with something special to her. One day when she was taking the girls to the lake, we went online for information. We found an ad for my old house for sale. Helen must have needed the money. A year after we left, Helen and Richie sent out divorce notices based on being abandoned. Aunt Barbara told Joan that her parents sent the annual Christmas report for the year. Joan's mother attached a personal note to Barb's letter because she knew that her daughter and Barb were close. Barb suspected that Joan's mother had guessed where Joan was. The message was a warning to Barbara. Helen didn't give up on finding California. She hired a private detective who visited Joan's parents. The detective knew about Aunt Barbara. She told her to expect someone to be sniffing around soon. She didn't call because she was afraid her calls might be tapped. Joan's mother watched a lot of spy movies. Barbara advised Cal and Joan to hurry up. We didn't have enough money to make a big move unless we were sure we'd get more money soon after the move. Instead of asking Joan's parents for help, I decided to take a chance and wrote to my old boss to find out where to look for a job. He replied that a private investigator had contacted him. My boss told him that he was pissed that I hadn't warned him, and he didn't care where I was. He then asked me if I liked Flagstaff, Arizona. I said I didn't know because I had never been there. He said there was an opening for a branch manager there. He agreed to set up an interview for me and assured me that I would get the job. I asked how he could guarantee that. He said his brother, who had already tried to hire 2 employees at my old office, was hiring. We headed toward Flagstaff. On the way, I was afraid that by becoming an employee, I would leave a trail that a good private investigator could find. I had an idea just before we entered Arizona. We got a hotel room with a double bed and let the girls swim in the pool. Joan did her best to calm my nerves. As promised, my former boss, his brother, mainly wanted to know how soon I could get started. I told him that I needed to form an LLC and name my corporation something other than my name. I told him that instead of an employee, he would utilize the services of my corporation. Service contracts were usually cheaper than salaried employees, so he agreed. We found a house in the desert. It was very different outside, but the kids adapted quickly. I think they were glad to get away from the cold winter weather possible where we came from. It took a few months for the kids to adjust and a few more before Joan and I felt safe again. That fateful night, Joan and I were turning out the lights about to go to bed when there was a knock on the door. At that hour, with no neighbors nearby, I became suspicious. I took my rifle and loaded it. I cautiously peeked through the peephole and saw that it was Helen. Tons of mixed emotions rushed through my brain. My heart was pounding frantically. My stomach felt queasy. I shouted to Joan that we had guests. I invited Helen in just as Joan entered the room. "I assume this is Helen." I nodded. Helen immediately jumped up. "I suppose the children are already asleep. I waited until you started turning out the lights. I didn't want to disturb them." "Yes, they've been asleep for about half an hour." "Good. God damn. You're just a hard-to-get bastard," she grinned. "Let me put you both at ease right from the start. I'm not here to cause trouble. After you left and Richie lost his job, he moved in with me. It didn't take me long to realize that I traded the Mercedes for a Yugo. Don't get me wrong, I was attracted to him for the sex, and he was good in bed, but a couple that lives together needs more than sex. I gave him a deadline to find a job so he could pay his share of the expenses. He didn't believe me at first, but was convinced when a deputy showed up and told him to get out or be arrested. I heard he found a job in another town. As for my life, I came to my senses with the help of a therapist. Since then, I've been able to support myself emotionally and financially pretty well. Private investigators don't come cheap. After a year, I filed for divorce because by then, I knew I had lost you and Kelsey. As much as I wanted to act differently, I knew I had to move on. By filing a quitclaim deed, I could set the terms of the divorce proceedings. I took what little was left of your stuff. Honestly, I feel like I've moved on. I actually have a man I am dating and have high hopes for. At least I'm sure I won't make the mistake I made with you. If you left Helen's ex, why are you here? Not exactly polite for small talk. Is it? Okay, the reason I'm here is closure. I got really depressed when I had time alone to realize what I'd done, what I had lost. I couldn't live in balance with myself without telling you how sorry I am and that I don't blame you one bit for what you did. I wanted to make sure you didn't think it was your fault. I pray that you don't hate me. I wish I could ask for your forgiveness, but I realize that's asking too much. Anyway, I apologize again. I hope you and Joan and Kelsey are happy. Well, that's it. Now I have closure. What about Kelsey? Were you planning on seeing her? Are you going to get custody? I'm not gonna lie, at first, I was hoping to at least get joint custody. As time went on, I realized that if she was used to her new family, it would do more harm than good for her to see me, much less live with me. As good as she is, I don't think I could handle her on my own without your help. Seeing each other now, we're probably experiencing emotions that will eat us both up for a long time. I wanna know how she's doing. Has she ever asked about me or been interested in me? How was she doing in school? None of the girls asked about you or Richie, but we certainly didn't forbid them to. Replied Joan. We said that you and Richie don't wanna be with us anymore, but want our new family to be happy. So far, they haven't said they wanna come back. That doesn't mean they don't periodically ask how you're doing. I feel pretty comfortable telling you that they have all adjusted well. Kelsey and my girls have become an inseparable trio of cute monsters. I homeschool her along with my girls. She tests 2 grades higher than she would be if she were in public school in most subjects. Helen, I can truly say that I love Kelsey as much as I love my 2 birth children. There were tears in Helen's eyes. Thank you. Have you 2 been married yet? I answered. No, we weren't sure we were divorced. That's what I thought. Well, I have a wedding present for you. It's a copy of each of your divorce certificates, suitable for framing. Her attempt at a joke seemed to be all about keeping from crying. Richie and I shared a divorce attorney. Now you can become a legal family if you want. You will notice that both Richie and I have given full custody of our children to the 2 of you. You should be able to apply to adopt each other's children. After pausing to watch Joan and I cry at the good news, Helen said, I have to go, and headed for the door. I reached out and took her hand. Through copious tears, Helen whispered, "Just let me go. I promise never to bother you again. If you ever need to let me know anything about Kelsey, you have my cell phone number." I let her go, and she left. Joan went and got us each a glass of wine. We needed to calm our nerves somehow. We sat in silence for a while. I looked at Joan, and after a few minutes, I saw her smile. So who's proposing to who? Now I was smiling. After due consideration and deep thought, I decided that the first one to climax tonight would be the one to propose. We both ran to the bedroom. Epilogue. Helen pulled far enough away so she couldn't be seen. She stopped and let out the sob she was holding inside. Helen pondered her situation. Her funds had almost run out when the private investigator claimed success. What little funds she had with her were less than $200. Her plan to meet with Cal had two options. First, Helen could find that Cal was unable to handle Kelsey without her. Joan either wouldn't be with him or their relationship had soured. Cal will forgive her. She can come back into Cal and Kelsey's life and never leave again. Even if they don't get married, it doesn't matter. Her car was loaded with everything she still had, waiting for that option to materialize. The second option was if she found Cal and Kelsey in good health. Maybe he and Joan would marry and even have a child of their own. In that case, she'd say she'd only come to end the affair and give them the divorce decrees as a parting gift. The second option was the most difficult, but she had to make provision for it. Her closure plan required her to leave her new family and make her way to the biggest city nearby, where she could start her life over without fear of running into them. The zippered bag in the glove compartment held Cal's engagement ring, her wedding bands, and other jewelry she no longer needed. Pawning them would give her money for a new life. Stop and crying, Helen pulled back onto the road. "Phoenix. I'm coming. Hey. Maybe this is a sign from God. Maybe I can rise from the ashes too."